jumbo jet. It wasn't easy, but nothing is. No. When I feel heavy metal, and I feel that I need when I lie and I'm easy, all of the time, but I'm never sure why I need you. Please I need you. I got my head down when I was young. It's not my problem. It's not my problem. When I feel heavy metal, and I feel that I need when I lie and I'm easy all of the time, but I'm never sure why I need you. Please I need you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the second round of the ASRC Formula 1 2021 Championship. Today taking place at the circuit of San Marino, or Imola as well known. And interesting fact before we get underway, the reason it's called the San Marino Grand Prix is because you still have Monza on the calendar, and once when it was first introduced into the Formula 1 days, all back in the 1900s, it was actually called the Italian Grand Prix, for those of you that don't know that. But of course, with Monza now on the calendar, it takes a precedent as the number one circuit in Italy. But what a historic place we are visiting this afternoon, San Marino Grand Prix, or Imola GP circuit. Now of course, this is the second round, and we was due some rain this afternoon, I'm told, as they had a large sweep go through Italy itself, and we do have a plug-in for the server which would have picked that up, but that's all dried out, and we are expecting a lovely dry race for this evening, which is good news for the drivers. But a bit about the circuit then, of course, introduced in 1953, and of course where we are today we can see a lot of chicanes, a lot of kinks and a lot of corners present to the drivers. But that never used to be the case. From turn 1 all the way through around the circuit, it all used to be flat out. So from Tamburello all the way up to turn 7, which is Tosa, used to be just one whole straight with a small kink going over to the left. And the same from Tosa all the way down through to Minerali and then on to Rivasa. Of course, we'll go through some of those corners later on as we go through the qualifying stage. But of course, it is the place where Ayrton Senna regretfully lost his life in 1994, and that brought in some of the changes that we see today. And of course, it is very fast-paced, even still with these changes, but definitely still not to be turned your nose up at. A lot of challenges, especially going through Minerali. That's going to be one of the iconic corners that are going to throw some of the guys off this afternoon. We'll see how they handle that. And of course, sorry, I just had something in my throat there, just clearing that. Of course, a week ago, we went to Bahrain Grand Prix, and it was a spectacular first round. A lot of overtakes, a lot of changes for the lead, and it was Alfa Romeo that took the podium position for the first time in the driver of Chris. So 25 points on the board there at Bahrain circuit. Elliott Simpson able to hold off the sister car from Paul Polsic for second place. But however, he actually received a large penalty for this particular round. 20 places for track limits, I'm told, looking at the data we've got in front of us. So that is a huge deficit for the start of this Grand Prix. Not too sure if there's any point in qualifying in all honesty. But he's going to be starting in the Aston Martin at the back of the order, and he's going to have a really hard challenge to fight on through here at Imola. Qualifying is really crucial at a circuit like this. Not a lot of room to manoeuvre, not a lot of free tarmac available, and that's going to be a problem indeed. As just mentioned, Alfa Romeo in third place, Pole Polsic on the board with 15 points. And then the first of the Williams with Nick Stefanenko coming in fourth place at Bahrain. So 12 points for them. The first of Ferraris with Albert Maslenikov in P5, 11 points on the board. Red Bull, Anton Skivichenko in P6 with 8 points. First of McLaren's Dylan Tarbotton in the P7, so that is a nice haul for that team. He had a bit of trouble at Bahrain, managed to come home quite nicely in the end though. First of the Hasses in P8, Igor Artemov, and then we have Moses Reyes in the first of the Alpines. Sister car close behind in P10, Fran Rodriguez, and then we have Nazar Zegametov in the Mercedes in P11. Not having a good year this time around. Vladislav Senkov in the second of the Ferraris in P12. Lucas Bywald in the second of the Mercedes in P13. Christopher Tarboten, DNF, unfortunately. We had a few casualties out on the last round, but that is, so we lost, I believe, from P13 all the way down to P17 are DNF. Most of them suspension and causing incidents. Bahrain certainly left its mark on some of the teams, but fingers crossed they can come home with some points this afternoon. So at the moment we are in the warm-up phase. We're waiting for the teams to go into the qualifying stage. Some of the guys are out on circuit at the moment. Of course, Haas, Igor Artemov at the moment going through the circuit of Imola. And in fact, we've just changed over to the session now, so we've timed that pretty much perfectly there. So for those of you who are interested in Formula 1, of course, you'll know that Spa was today in the real world. And our thoughts go out to Lando Norris after his big accident up at El Rouge. For those that you haven't watched it, I apologise in advance. Don't want to give you any spoilers, but I am told that he is safe and well and not suffering from any injuries whatsoever. So that is good news. And of course, the other news is with George Russell. I won't say what it is, but Williams really up there in the qualifying for this particular round here at Spa. So I won't say where he came because I don't want to ruin it for anyone that's watching in the real world. But there you go. It's a good day for Williams. That's all I'm saying. Of course, Nick Stefanenko in the Williams here in the virtual world, probably looking to do a similar kind of performance. Of course, he is in P4 in the standings. So certainly one to keep an eye on. So qualifying has officially started. 20 minutes counting down as of now for you, ladies and gents. Zenkov at the top of the timetable at the moment. We've got a few cars going out nice and early, trying to get a bit of clear circuit if we can. Currently following Dylan Tarboten in the McLaren at the moment. I'm also being told by some of the guys that the McLaren and maybe potentially the Williams are going to be slightly stronger here. They prefer the twistier, lower speed circuits. Of course, they haven't got as much horsepower as the Mercedes, the Red Bull, the Ferrari, and so that will lean towards their advantage. Especially the McLaren, I believe, it's a car that prefers high-speed corners and has a very strong aerodynamic package, so fingers crossed they can do well here. Just as we're waiting for the cars to come across the start-finishing line, they're just starting their first flying laps now. It's a very short circuit at Imola, so expect a lot of flying laps to be done here before we go into the race session. A few other guys that have got penalties following the previous round. Moses Reyes for the Alpine, 5-place grid penalty for the next event as of Bahrain. I believe that was due... Oh, it just says a violation of Article 4.4. I'm not too sure what that is. Already mentioned Elliot Simpson. He's got a 20-place grid penalty for the next event for track limits last round. A few other teams got a few warnings and maybe a few time penalties, but those are the only grid penalties taking effect this afternoon. So just in case you're wondering how, they've been moved down the order, that explains why. So we're not getting any times on the board just as of yet, but while we're waiting to do that, we're going to go on board with Elliot Simpson in the Aston Martin. He's going to take us around a lap of Imola from his onboard camera view. He's going to walk us through the lap before we get some times going on the board. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
This is a lap guide of Imola Grand Prix circuit in preparation for round 2 of the ASRC Formula 1 Championship. Now going down towards the first chicane, we're looking for the kink on the left and downshifting to 3rd gear, staying in 3rd but back on the throttle as early as possible and flat out through the left hand kink onto the short straight into the 2nd chicane. We're braking just before the left hander entry point down to 4th, carrying as much speed as possible on the exit and braking very late for the hairpin at the end of that very short straight, down to the 2nd briefly for the extra rotation, then back up through the gears. Moving to the right hand side of the track, ready for this sweeping left hander, down to 4th, trying to carry as much speed as possible, careful not to run wide there, it's very easy to do so. And down to one of the hardest corners on the track, you've got to be brave, don't brake through the right hand kink, and then down to 3rd, carry as much speed again and up through the back straight. Looking for between the 50 and 100 metre boards to start braking, down to 2nd, take as much curve on the left and the right through that chicane, and again be careful not to go too wide on the exit. You can beach the car there and lose a lot of speed. Now down to the final 2 corners, we're braking just before the 50 metre board, down to 2nd and then down to 3rd for the final corner, which is slightly less tight than the 2nd to last corner. Back up through the gears, DRS open, the only DRS zone on this track, and then flat out taking the shortest line possible towards the start finish line, and that concludes a lap of Imola. I hope that was helpful.
Welcome back to the live stream in the qualifying session. Some of the cars flying down into Sector 3 as we rejoin the live stream, and of course thank you to Elliot Simpson for walking us around the Imola circuit there in his Aston Martin. Fingers crossed he can do well this afternoon. But let's get back. So we've got some times on the board now as they've been going across the start finishing line, and it is currently led by Igor Artemov in the Haas. So very strong performance by this gentleman here. So the lap time to beat so far 1:14.498 on the board. The gap is at 0.3 seconds before we see the next car, which is Richard Wardner's. Or Wanders, sorry, my apologies. I'll make sure I speak properly this time. P3 belongs to the 97 Red Bull, so Anton Skivichenko coming home strong, 1:15.058 to make. So it's half a second difference to get on to that front row seat. And Richard Wanders actually improved on that last lap. I believe he went into pit lane in order to get that slight advantage, not too sure. Vladislav Zenkov in the number 5, coming home in 4th place, 1:15.199, 0.7 seconds off pole position. And then we have Andrei Fomichev in the 77. That's the sister Haas car. So a very strong showing for this team this afternoon. Fingers crossed some of the others can mix in a bit. At the last round at Bahrain, we saw a great mixture of cars at the front end. Ferraris, Alfa Romeos, Aston Martins, Williams, and a few Red Bulls as well, all getting in on the action in the top 10. So I'm hoping for a very similar strong mixture of cars this evening as well. Moving down the order still, Nick Stefanenko in P7 for Williams. Andrei Fomichev now moving up into P5, so an improvement that time by for the Haas driver. Dylan Tarboton in P8 for McLaren, followed by Christopher Tarboton in the Red Bull for P9. And then just rounding out the top 10 position, we have Sadak Medov in the Mercedes. Elliot Simpson, Aston Martin, not having the strongest start compared to his showing at Bahrain, 1:19.2. It's good enough for 11th place at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see if he's deploying the tactical side of things. Of course, we've already mentioned that he's got a 20-second grid place penalty coming up for the race, which isn't ideal. So that would change the mindset of the team, I'm sure, in terms of what tyres they're going to take for the start of the race. They're going to want to go long into the first stint, probably, and then dive into the pit lanes and go on something more aggressive, such as softs. Looks like they may be on the hard compound at the moment because they have white sidewalls. And, of course, mediums are yellow, and then softs are red. For those of you that don't know. Coming across the start finishing line now. Is it going to improvement this time by for Elliot Simpson? No, it's not. It's a 1:19.288. Still his fastest lap time there. And that's quite a few seconds off the fastest time. Oh, we've got an Alpine round in the gravel. And there's two cars actually rejoining on the exit of Tamburello. It's a very tricky section of corners. They're going through 2 to 4. You've got to really perfect that first entry line, because if you mess up the first apex on the left-hand side, that does throw you off for the rest of that section as well. Now coming down into Minerali. Very tricky corner. Probably the hardest here for this evening. You've got to be really brave going into that particular corner. Make sure that the car is nice and steady before applying the brakes, and then you just got to chuck it into that right-hand kink before going up the hill. Very slippery, very hard to master. Through Rivazza, which is turn 17 and 18, those two left-hand corners. And across the start-finishing line here for Elliot Simpson. P13 on the board, his personal best at the moment. Meanwhile, at the front of the grid, Władysław Senkov for Team Ferrari, moving up into first place with a 1:13.907. So that is a huge jump to get to the front of the pack. It looks very stable going through Minerali. In fact, probably the stablest we've seen so far. Igor Artemov for the Haas team, settling for second place. He's still got that front row seat alongside. That's a 1:14.498. That's half a second down from the Ferrari. And still plenty of time to make up that gap if he can. 10 minutes still remaining in this session. Ferrari comes back into pit lane. New set of tyres going on. And just making some final setup changes. Dylan Tarbotin in the McLaren, now heading back out once more. He's currently sitting in 9th place. His personal best 1:15.955. In terms of the overall results, he's currently sitting in P7. So we've already mentioned as well, Imola going to be very tricky to overtake here. There's not a lot of room to manoeuvre. This particular corner is a nice overtaking opportunity, which is Tosa, turn 7, for going back up the hill again. Coming race time, could try it into turn 9. Piratella, we've seen it there before in the real world. Before Minerali, pretty much a one-car game. So single file through here. Can get very messy if you want to try anything else. And then of course the run down to Rivazza, very good overtaking opportunity available for the drivers if they wish to take it. Of course heavy on the anchors, slowing the car down for that left hand corner before catapulting. Oh, very sideways moment there for Tarbotin. Just wrestled the McLaren back into order before accelerating over the start finishing line. This, of course, his flying lap now. That would have affected the acceleration down into turn 1, though. So this could be a slow lap already. Tamburello, turns 3 and 4. Look quite nice and tidy. Not going wide. Using a bit of the curb, which, of course, is totally fine. Oh, slightly wide there. One of the Haas is on the left going wide. Took a bit too much of that curb. It is very tricky indeed. Especially with all this horsepower in these cars. Can send them wide completely. Lovely low camera shot there as you come into Tosa. Oh, sorry, Minerali, my apologies. Let's have a look at those sector times as they come in for us. So it is a grey sector 1, which we already predicted was going to happen because he did have that small issue coming out of the final corner. Green sector 2, so personal best here for the McLaren. Coming down into the final sector now. Just got to make sure he focuses. Very tricky to master that final corner. Nicely on the accelerator, the McLaren now accelerating onto the start finishing line. currently sitting in 9th place, 1:15.9 to beat. And data comes through. It's a slight improvement, hardly even a tenth of a second, 15.907. So he stays exactly where he is in P9. Not the result he was hoping for. Maybe this time by, though. If he can get that Sector 1 fixed, then he can move up the order. Already coming down into 18.9 seconds for Sector 1. That's a personal best for the McLaren driver. He needs to find at least half a second, though, if he's going to move up into P8, which is currently held by Maslenikov. Coming across the start finish line once again. It's a grey Sector 2, not this personal best, so he's gone slower this time. Seems to be switching around a fair bit. It comes across the start finishing line. Data's coming through. 1:15.6, so he found 3 tenths that time by. So the McLaren is getting faster. Of course, those tyres coming up to temperature now. He's on his second flying lap, so we did predict, or should expect, should I say, him to go faster in that particular lap. He's going for a third. If he improves this time by, no, it's going to be a grey sector. He's lost at least 5 tenths going through Sector 1 alone. So the McLaren, I doubt he's going to improve this time by. So staying in P9 there for Dylan Tarbotin. Zenkov still in the lead, 1:13.9, still the time to be. In the meantime, though, Igor Artemov closed down that gap to 0.043 seconds, ladies and gents. There's nothing in between these two cars at the ending stages of qualifying. Oh, bit of a seizure there coming into turn 2 for the Haas. Yeah, a bit too early on the accelerator. It's a beautiful 360 there. Managed to keep it on the grey stuff, which is not an easy achievement at all. But doing a bit of pirouetting for us on camera there. Williams in third. Oh, again going wide. Seems to be quite a hot spot at that particular corner. So on board with Wanders at the moment. He's got to find at least 0.6 seconds in order to claim pole position. Skirichenko in the 97 in P4. He's got a fair bit of work to do as well. His lap time 1:15.058 for the Red Bull. It's good to see, though, that all of the top 5 cars are different teams, different chassis. So it just shows that we've got a nice mixture of talents and abilities on the grid this evening. Through Minerali. Bit of a wiggle there on the second of the apexes. Held it together nicely in the end, though. Yeah, he's decided to back out of that particular lap. You can hear the diffuser or the exhaust coming into play. So, yeah, he's decided to back out of that one completely. Now following the Aston Martin, Callum Lloyd. So he had a disastrous race at Bahrain 1 week ago. Unfortunately, DNF'd early on after just a few laps, running into some problems. He'll be looking to rectify those mistakes as he comes out of Minerali in a very spectacular fashion. He's currently sitting in P6, 1.2 off pole position at the moment for the Aston Martin. And looking for some open space as his teammate goes by. Also alongside the Alpine, a massive collision into the barrier as we head down towards Rivazza. That is a huge collision going 3 wide. The cars just didn't know how much space was available between them. Small touch between Lloyd, and I'm not too sure which Alpine that was, to be honest. All happened very quickly. It might be Moses Reyes, but yeah, no, he's still got his front wing attached. So That was a really big incident. Hopefully that won't be seeing that in the race, but thankfully they can escape, and the mechanics magically fix the vehicle in just a short moment. So your order at the moment then is Zenkov in first place, still that 1:13.8, slight improvement over the last time by a few tenths, or a few hundredths of a second, should I say. Igor Artemov in the Haas in second, Williams in third with Wanders, and then Skirichenko in the Red Bull in P4. Rounding out the top 5 is Andrei Fomichev. He's sitting in pit lane at the moment, waiting for the session to end. That's the safety car for the Haas. And then the Aston Martin from Callum Lloyd in P6. Moses Reyes in the Alpine, going back out again, sitting in P7 at the moment. Nick Stefanenko, the second of the Williams cars, in P8. Maslenikov in P9. And then the McLaren now being demoted into P10. Moving outside of that, we have Garcia in the 53. He's currently sitting in P11. That's the second of the Alpine cars, having a nice little travel through the gravel there on the exit of Sector 1, Tamburello. Just manages to slow it down before going into the barrier. Problem is those tyres will now be picking up a lot of debris, and he decides to go into pit lane. Don't blame him there for that one. A few cars back in pit lane. Christopher Toboten in P12. Norbert, I think it's Mitchom. I don't believe I've seen that name before, so another newcomer to the series, it seems. Elliot Simpson still struggling. He's down in P14, but as already mentioned, he is on the hard compound tyres. Probably a long game strategy approach to this race. Nazar Segametov in P15, and then Alexander Meshkov in P16 for you. Now coming into the closing stages of this qualifying session as we now reach the end of the timer. Last laps coming in here, ladies and gents, as Waters goes very sideways, hits the back of the circuit, and the exit of Rivasa loses his front wing in the process. Doesn't interrupt any of the traffic coming through though. Callum Lloyd very sideways on Rivasa as well, so they're really trying to squeeze every ounce of performance out of these Formula 1 cars in the final flying laps that they have. Over the start finishing line, we know that's not going to be faster because he even clips the inside barrier as well, trying to cut the course as the checker flag, an extra donut for good measure, just to give us a bit of a show. Elliot Simpson now coming into P8. He's putting a flying last lap for the Aston Martin team. So he's actually gone on to the medium compounds though. So he's obviously had a change of heart in how he's going to enter this race. He's been on the hard compound all session and has now decided to actually go for it. And we do have a purple sector for Maslenikov as well. So he's just gone his personal best as well. So Ferrari both in first and third place. We saw this at Bahrain as well. Really strong performance from the team as we come to the checkered flag. So keeping that pace in the bag for the final few stages. And of course the rubber is getting laid down on the circuit, so we do expect faster and faster times. Well, ladies and gents, let's bring up the official results of qualifying. All the cars have now completed their final laps for you. So this is the official end of the qualifying for the San Marino Grand Prix. Zenkov for the Ferrari in first place. He's pretty much dictated the pace throughout the session. Igor Artemov in the Haas in second place, 1:13.9, only 0.06 of a second shy of that pole position. The sister Ferrari in third, so he's going to be on the second row, and for company alongside will be Richard Wanders in the first of the Williams. Anton Skirichenko in the Red Bull, rounding out the top 5. And then Andrei Fomichev in the sister Haas car in P6. Both Aston Martins alongside for the start. P7 led by Callum Lloyd and Elliot Simpson close behind. And then Moses Reyes in the Alpine in 9th place. Nick Stefanenko coming home in P10 for you. And rounding out those top 10 positions. Dylan Todboten in the McLaren being demoted to P11 in the end, and then the second of the Alpines in the hands of Pablo Garcia in P12. Christopher Todboten in the second of the Red Bulls in P13. Norbert Michon in the first of the Alfa Romeos. In fact, we are missing the Alfa Romeos. I've only just noticed. They were very fast at Bahrain, but it looks like we may have a reserve driver here with us this evening, which is a shame, but fingers crossed he can score some points for the team. Sega Mentov for the Mercedes car in P15, and then last of the runners is Alexander Meshkov for AlphaTauri. My apologies. And of course, we still have our safety car with us, and that is going to be driven by someone. I don't actually believe we have that information with us. That is your starting order. We're now just going to go into a short warm-up session before we go racing, ladies and gents. So it's a 15-minute gap between the race. A good opportunity for the guys to run through their strategies, do all their calculations, sit down with the team, discuss what is the best tactic going forward, how do we maximise the constructors' points here this evening. Of course, it's going to be all about that qualifying. As already mentioned, there's a few overtaking opportunities here, not a lot to play with though. So it's all going to be about the start of the race. Are they going to go aggressive straight off the bat, try to gain some ground early on, or do we play the long game, trying to undercut some of the teams, or even overcut some of the teams by choosing a certain set of tyres? As already mentioned, it was due to rain. Unfortunately, we're not going to get any mixed conditions here this evening. That would have been really interesting. You know, Italian Grand Prix, a tricky circuit like Imola, add in some rain and you have one hell of an event. But unfortunately, that is not to be. But this is the part of the stream, of course, where we're going to drag in some of our drivers at the moment. So let's have a quick few words with what their thoughts are, what they're going to be doing during the race, if they might share some of their wisdom with the common folk known as commentators and witnesses. So the first of the drivers to be interviewed is Richard Wanders in the Williams car. Good result for them this afternoon. So Richard, if you're there, welcome to the commentary box, and a good qualifying session for you. How are you feeling about that? So I think we are missing Richards at the moment. He's got his mic muted, so maybe not ready just as of yet. But we'll keep him there just in case he is going to come back with us. In the meantime, though, of course, as we just already mentioned, it's about that strategy. Not too sure how Imola is going to play in terms of the tyre strategy this afternoon. I'm probably expecting a two-stop, mainly because of all the high-speed corners here. So the soft compound, although it will be very pacey and very strong for a few laps, I'm expecting them to wear down quite quickly, especially through Sector 2. So Minerali, more specifically, is going to tear those left-hand tyres. And then even the corner before that, which is Piratella, that's going to really hammer the ones on the right. So it's all things to consider when you're deciding which one you're going to choose, because these things are vital to scoring points. A few seconds can make all the difference between coming in P5 or P7.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, welcome to the commentary box, Richard. Was just saying, you know, Williams very strong this afternoon. You must be very happy with that lap.
Yeah, I'm pretty glad. It was a good lap. It felt really good. The only thing though is that I messed up the last corner. Otherwise, I would have maybe gone P1.
Yeah, we saw that. Yeah. What happened there? Because we was watching you as you was going around the lap, and you just seemed to lose it on the rear end. What was? Yeah, what caused it?
I think I touched the curb a little bit, and then my car just went, and I couldn't hold it anymore. So yeah, maybe a little bit too greedy on the throttle, but yeah, in the end, still P4 is not bad, and I hope I can do something in the race.
So how's the William handle around Imola? It's a very different game to what we had at Bahrain a week ago. Do you feel more comfortable here? Or is it a stronger car?
Yeah, I feel more comfortable because now you can basically touch the curb a little bit, and in the Bahrain you couldn't. Whenever you touch one, you would just spin out. But yeah, I feel good at this track, and I hope I can do something.
And what kind of aero package are you running today? Is it a higher downforce compared to Bahrain? or are you trying to stay in the middle for that straight line speed?
It is higher now because you've got more corners and going uphill and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Bahrain was all about like the main straight, so yeah, just a bit higher, but yeah, still low but high. It feels good. So.
And how are the tyres here? Because we was already saying just on the live stream a few minutes ago how the tyre choice is going to be crucial here. There's a lot of high-speed corners. You finding that's having a large impact on the life of the tyre as a whole, and is it impacting your strategy for the race at all?
It could impact the strategy. The tire wear is pretty high in the second sector with the high speed corners, but it's less higher than what it was in Bahrain because the temperatures are way lower.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not too bad, but I think we can do something with the strategy here.
And what would you say is the trickiest part of Imola circuit for this afternoon? We were saying that Minerali, is a bit of a risk every single time you enter it. Is there a personal corner that you don't like?
Yeah, like the downhill before the going uphill again. That's a high-speed corner, and you can easily lose your car there if you not pay attention. So yeah, overall I think this track is pretty cool and nice, but the last corner and that corner just bad for me at least.
Yeah. Well, you're starting in a strong position there. Any words that you want to give to maybe your teammate or the guys that are watching here this afternoon?
I hope I can do something. I'm hoping for good fights and make up some positions. I will see what I can do.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
See how it goes. Well, best of luck, Richards. It's a strong start, and fingers crossed you can, expand on that going into the race. But we'll see you out there on circuit.
Yeah, thanks. Good luck.
Thank you very much. So that was Richard Wanders for the Williams team, coming home in 4th place in qualifying. Very strong result for them this afternoon. His teammate Nick Stefanenko, of course, coming home in P10. So a bit more work to do for Nick, but I'm sure he will manage and fight his way through the order as well. And we're just following some of the cars around, more particularly the Haas team, as they go 1-2 through the final set of corners, maybe trying to gauge what kind of slipstream advantages they're going to be obtaining going into the race, perhaps. We'll try and get some further interviews from some of the teams before we go into the race itself. Just kind of gauge what their feelings are going into this particular session. Of course, Imola, very tricky circuit. Some people love it, some people hate it. But we'll soon find out. In with us now is Callum Lloyd for the Aston Martin team. You guys finishing right behind one another, so you're starting alongside. Is that kind of the result you was hoping for? And how did the lap go for yourself?
Not really what we were hoping for. Elliot had a penalty, so he wasn't pushing hard. He was just starting the mediums, so he'll be starting at the back due to a penalty for the previous race. So that's not representative of his pace. And then I don't know if you saw on the broadcast, but my final lap was like very messy with a few spins. So not really ideal for us, but 7th isn't the worst place in the world to start. I'll just hopefully have to try and avoid all the chaos at the start.
Oh, you're expecting chaos, eh? I think probably being in the middle of the top 10, not the worst place to be, but all depends what happens when they all arrive at turn 1, I guess. Yeah. So, talking about the Aston Martin, then we was already speaking to one of the Williams drivers. He found it very comfortable and found it was a slightly stronger car as compared to Bahrain. Are you guys feeling the same, or is it more the opposite story?
No, I'm feeling the same. I think we've found a really good setup for this week in the cars in a really good place. Like, it just feels really comfortable to drive. So hopefully over a race stint, like, being comfortable with the car means that we can get a nice consistency going, because it's a 63 lap race, so it's going to be a long haul just to make sure that we get to the end without any incidents and the result will come to us.
Well,
I think
sorry, go on.
we both had I think we both had top 5 pace in that qualifying. Just me messing up my lap and Elliot's penalty means that we're not there, but hopefully by the end of the race we can be.
Well, we're saying that Imola is a very short circuit, compared to Bahrain. The lap times are very quick, and it's quite a technical circuit, a lot of high-speed corners. Do you find, you feeling that going around the circuit, is it more attentive to detail, or are you having to concentrate more through this race?
Yeah, definitely. There's not really any place on the track where you can relax, because even the front straight, there's still wee kinks in it that you have to pay attention to. But I really enjoy driving this track, actually. It's just the fast-flowing corners, I just really love all them. So I really enjoy driving this track, but like you said, you have to be concentrating the whole time or you will crash.
Yeah.
And there's no room for error with grass and gravel.
So what particular part of the circuit is your favourite? Have you got a section that you really excel in, where you're comfortable, you feel you can make up some ground against the other guys?
Between turns 9 and 12, probably. So the fast left-hander and then through Aqua Minerale, I just love that section. And I feel I can really push the limit there. But it is also very easy to get wrong. So in the race, probably won't be pushing 100% there because just to avoid being in the wall. But that's my favourite part of the track for sure.
Have you as a team managed to practice maybe in slipstream conditions before going into the race this evening at all? Of course, going through Minerale is a lot of high downforce required, but you're going to lose that in the race when there's dirty air. Do you think that's going to affect the pace a bit?
I think it will be very difficult to follow through there. I obviously don't know what the other guys have in their setups, but I think our setup probably has a little bit more downforce than the other guys, because I think we feel that having more downforce, it helps with the tyre wear, and also if we can follow through the corners, then the slipstream should hopefully negate the downforce difference. So I think we think higher downforce is the way to go, and hope we'll see, because we're both in the pack.
Yeah. And when I spoke to your teammate last round, he was saying that you like to play the long game, the tyres, look after them, make sure you can maybe undercut or even overcut some of the teams. Is it the same approach here, or are you thinking more of an aggressive approach to this week?
I know for sure Elliot will be playing the long game, starting from the back. Don't want to take too many risks at the back, try and play the strategy game. For me, I think it will be about trying to find the balance, because obviously I want to go fast and try and move forward, but at the same time I don't want to be too aggressive and my race is over after 10 laps. So I think there will be an element of the long game and playing strategy in it.
Well, it's, as you say, not the best result that you was hoping for, but certainly not the worst place that you can be. P7, you guys starting alongside. Hopefully you can move up the order. Look forward to seeing that happen. So best of luck for the race, Callum, and we'll see you out on the circuit.
Yep.
So Callum Lloyd there, one of the drivers for the Aston Martin. They're both starting in P6 and 7. Very strong performance from the team. Again, it's not what they were hoping for, but still, they've got a lot of work to do in order to move up, and I'm sure they can. So we've got time for one more, if we can, before we go into the next session, which of course is the race. We've got 2 minutes. So if we speak to Vladislav Zenkov, of course, very strong result from you today. Congratulations on pole position, Zenkov. Tell us how you're feeling about that.
Grazie ragazzi. And actually, yeah, I'm very happy to pole position on Autodromo Internazionale on Sedina Ferrari, because it's my favorite non-street circuit. So I'm looking very positive for the race.
Yep.
We have pole position. Also my teammate Albert Maslenikov, who joined right before qualification, also did an amazing job on P3. So we are looking for a very good result on Italy circuit.
Yeah, so, Bahrain, not probably, it was a roller coaster. You guys were at the back, you was at the front, and
Yes.
it was emotional to watch almost, but very strong end to the race for at least one of the cars as well. So, Imola, are you both feeling very comfortable this time around, or have you learnt from the mistakes at Bahrain?
We hope to get those points back, which we lost in Sahir.
Well, you've got just 40 seconds before we go over to the race. I know you're going to be jumping in the car very shortly. Predictions for the race going forward. What you're hoping for, or who is your largest threat?
I think Igor Artemov is very fast. Also, Richard Wonders is some kind of black horse because we a little not expected his so high pace. So interesting is going to be the things is going to be very interesting. So it's going to be very excited race, and we hope to a solid result here.
Well, I'll let you go because the warm-up has just concluded, so we'll have to cut it there. So, very best of luck for the race again. Congratulations on your podium position, and enjoy.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care, Zenkov. Good luck. So that was Zenkov, our pole-sitting Ferrari there for Scuderia. And yeah, very fast time indeed. As already mentioned, pretty much dictated the pace from the get-go. His favourite circuit, that explains why. Very comfortable round here at San Marino GP. And definitely he's going to be trying to break that DRS slipstream from the go once the green flag is dropped. So we're just waiting for the transition for the warm-up to go over to the race. And then we will be underway, ladies and gents. It'll be a very long 60-plus laps here at Imola. So again, very short circuit indeed in these Formula 1 cars. 117s and 115s, 113 being the pole position lap. But of course, being race pace, I expect to see mostly 115s to 17s depending on those tyre compounds. Just as we're waiting for the session to go over, if you guys are interested in this league, all the details, all of the links are in the description below. You've got their Discord, championship, and of course everything you need in order to partake. And I believe it's every single week moving forward, and we do have a few vacancies left if I'm not mistaken. So now over to the next session then. We'll just wait for the cars to line up on the grid. For those of you that don't know, it's the same procedure as in real life. So they will line up on the grid, begin their warm-up lap, get as much heat into the tyres, and then a standing start down into turn 1, which will be a sight to see because of course Tamburello, known for being very, very tight and narrow. You can probably get too wide situation there, but anything beyond that will be very hair-raising indeed. And so they've got to be very careful about how they brake. Most likely going to have to come onto the brakes very early for the mid-pack and further back in the order. Of course, that was where Bottas and George Russell had that huge collision not so long ago. We saw that in spectacular fashion. They both went into the gravel and the grass beyond. So very messy accident if it does not go perfectly. Also, if you are enjoying the stream, don't forget to hit that like button. It really does help us out. Subscribe for more live streams. And you can check us out if you want to use us in the future at Simsports.com. And we're just waiting for the race to get underway. So once the session has completed, it's been at the checkered flag for some time now. We're just waiting for the session to go over. And there we go. There's the famous announcement from the R Factor 2 guy saying everyone get off the grid because we're about to go racing. Good chance for the guys to make their final changes. Of course, Parc Fermé rules apply. Not allowed to change the tyres before going into the race itself. And they will be starting on the tyre that they qualified in, especially for the top 10. That is, if you're outside the top 10, I believe they can still change their tyres. And that will be a interesting fact to consider, especially for our pole-sitting cars, or at least the top 5. They were doing quite a few laps during that qualifying phase. So they will have to deal with what they've put down already, and hopefully they will all come out of it in a clean manner. So, yeah, we're just waiting for the cars to come out onto the track. And just like magic, they appear on the start-finishing line for you. And once they get rolling, we'll run through the starting order for everyone that's just joined the live stream and are catching up on the action. Of course, we already know Zenkov in pole position for Ferrari. So pole position 1:13.8 was the time to beat. Igor Artemov in the Haas gave it a good go, could not do so. Malis Lenikov in third for the team. The first of the Williams in P4 with Wanders, and then Skirichenko in the 97 Red Bull in P5. Fomichev in the second of the Haases, and then we have the two Aston Martins, Callum Lloyd and his teammate alongside. Just outside is Moses Reyes in the Alpine, then Nick Stefanenko in the second of the Williams in P10. Then Dylan Tarboton and Garcia, followed by Christopher Tarboton in the Red Bull. Norbin Mitchon in P14 for the Alfa Romeo. And then rounding out the order, Segametov, Alexander Meshkov, and then Elliot Simpson in the Aston Martin. Of course, he has that penalty to serve at the start of this race, of course, so we did forget that, apologies. So he qualified P7, but he will be starting from the back of the order. Also having a penalty for the start will be Moses Reyes in the Alpine, so those guys are going to be slightly down from where they qualified, just in case you're confused about the start order or why they are where they are. And just waiting for the cars now to line up onto the grid. Warming up the tyres. Igor Artemov trying to build up some form of temperature. He's going for the medium or the hard compound for the start, it seems. And then we see Zenkov in the Ferrari coming to a standstill. Warmed up the brakes on the final run down towards the start-finishing position. And now waiting for the grid to line up behind. This is where the heartbeat starts to increase. Hands begin to get sweaty. He's got the lead of the race. He's got the inside line for turn 1. And more importantly, the inside line for Tamburello. As the final cars now line up on the grid. Elliot Simpson rounding out the back of the order as we bring up the data for you. Waiting for the start of round 2 of the ASRC Formula 1 Championship here at Imola. Waiting for the lights to go out. And the rare's building, and we are off as Zenkov gets off to a nice start. Puffs of smoke coming from every direction as they all get on their way down into turn 1. Bit of a sideways moment there for Artemov. Tries to fend off the attack from Haas. He goes down into second place. Bit of bumping and barging between Artemov and Wardners in the Williams. Going down into P3 now is Artemov. So he's lost out on that second place already. We have a 1-2 Ferrari situation up front. And in the back row we have a lot of positions being made. Callum Lloyd in the Aston Martin in 8th place. Fighting off the McLaren of Dylan Tarboton, who himself has made up 2 positions on the start, up into P9, so already inside the points there for the McLaren team. Down into the hill, into Marinello. Zenkov already building up a decent lead over his teammate, 0.7 seconds coming into Sector 3. Sideways between the 2 cars behind for 3rd and 4th. This is Artemov fending off the Williams there, trying his best to do so. He holds off just for the time being, but a really aggressive start here from Warders as he comes down into Sector 3. Rivaza, a little bit deep there, goes onto the gravel ever so slightly. This could be an opportunity for Skirichenko. Also fighting behind is the back markers, so moving up is Fomichev, Andrei Fomichev. A lot of positions going on. Going all over the place. We've got a 2-wide situation. Here comes Nick Stefanenko. 2 wide with Skirichenko in the Red Bull. Coming down almost 3-wide situation. The Williams gets tapped and Nick Stefanenko and also Fomichev go wide into turn 1 as a front wing missing from the Haas. And that happened also quickly. Not too sure who is going to get the blame for that one. I'm sure the marshals will investigate. but it was Nick Stefanenko got caught up in the middle of that. He's now P12, so he's lost out on a few positions there. Dylan Tarboton moving into position as well. On board with Callum Lloyd. Callum Lloyd having another spin at the top of the hill in Sector 2. That is Piratella. And a big crash in a big way. That's a Red Bull and another Aston Martin. That's his teammate. Also the two Alpines. And that is surely going to bring the safety car out. That is a huge collision there, ladies and gents. A lot of cars involved as they try to sort themselves out. There's actually a car on fire at the top of the hill. I believe that's Christopher Tarboton. It is indeed. Massive flames coming out the back end of that Red Bull. And that is the end of their race. The safety car has been deployed. So that is luckily parked at the side of the road. He tries to pit lane. And the safety car has now come out after 2 laps being completed there. So that was a huge collision. I believe about 5 or 6 cars involved. So Elliot Simpson was involved. We saw him go 180. Alexander Meshkov. We have Pablo Garcia. Christopher Tarboton, the first DNF of this race. Moses Reyes was involved, Fomichev and Nick Stefanenko. That is a large portion of the grid at the back end, all entering the pit lane for repairs. So jacks go up there for Elliot Simpson. Not too sure how much damage was sustained. Also for Nick Stefanenko. Oh, and there's even a crash in pit lane. That is Moses Reyes. He's just lost his front wing again. So a misjudgment there by the Alpine driver. Tried to get back underway and misjudged the distance between his front wing and the Williams. And that's actually caused further damage, which is not ideal for him. So we were saying how Imola can be very tricky indeed. There's not a lot of runoff area available, unlike Bahrain, where if you see an accident ahead of you, you can easily run wide and avoid it. That is not the case here. There's not any mercy from this circuit whatsoever, and of course it has a reputation for being very tricky to master as well. Some guys love it here, but of course some guys running into trouble early on. There's just nowhere that they could have gone. Once the first car, I think it was Callum Lloyd was the first Aston Martin to start to spin out. That then sets off a chain reaction down the order, and a lot of cars then have nowhere to escape to. And I believe that is why we saw so many cars involved there. So Zenkov staying in the high gears, trying to preserve some form of fuel for later on in the race. Very smart move. But that, of course, that has brought the pack once again close together. Zenkov leading the way still. Nice 1-2 for Ferrari here so far this evening. Of course, we saw this at Bahrain. They were very dominant in the first half of the race. Then they started to run into trouble. A few spins here and there, an extra pit stop, but it all seemed to come together at the end, I think, but they came home in P4, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. No, P5, sorry, and that was Maslenikov. The second of the Ferraris came home in P12. That was Zenkov. So Zenkov, this time by, looking to rectify his mistakes from 1 week ago at Bahrain, and so far, he's off to a really good start. Now, hopefully, the safety car won't breed any more safety cars. It has a habit of doing so, not in the championship, just in general. The safety car always has the ability to obviously reduce the tyre temperatures. You get a cold situation on all 4 corners, especially in the Formula 1 cars. They need high-speed corners in order to maintain those pressures, and that's where all the grip comes from, especially on those slicks, those soft tyres. So for them in the Ferraris and also in the top 5 at least, they really need to make sure that they are monitoring those pressures, those temperatures, make sure that they are in their optimal as best as they can at these speeds, so that when we do go back to green racing, they are going to have the grip available to make it through these high-speed corners here. Another car going back into pit lane. That is Pablo Garcia in the Alpine. That was the one that caused the incident in pit lane with Nick Stefanenko in the Williams. Lost its front wing. Seems to be also missing its rear wing on top of that. And they are the only car that's actually a lap down, but they're going in for repairs. A bit of weaving going on in the background there. Again, just trying to keep those temperatures up as much as possible. Now, as we wait for the safety car to go around, spin out for a few laps now, it will start to influence the tactical approach for some of the teams here. Of course, as we go further into this race, they'll be thinking, can they get away with a one-stop strategy? A bit too early at this stage, I believe, but even still, if we do get further safety cars, it may be worth considering a different approach to get to the end to the race. Or of the race, should I say, sorry, my apologies. Safety car accelerating into the distance down the hill. Zenkov staying fairly close to the safety car ahead. He will dictate the start of the race. There's a fairly big gap between first and second at the moment, so that may be tactical, not too sure. Maslenikov 0.6 seconds behind. Now closing up though. Safety car looks like it's staying out for one more lap. Yes, it is. Still waiting for Garcia to re-enter this race in the Alpine. Still heavily damaged there. Very sore sight to see. He's been in pit lane now for at least 5 minutes, so clearly running into some problems. Typically I wouldn't expect that kind of damage to take that long, unless it's something that we can't see, of course. He may have engine damage for all we know. So let's quickly touch on the order of things now that we've had a moment to gather ourselves. Ferrari 1 and 2, as already mentioned, the Haas driver Igor Artemov in P3. Just outside, though, is Richard Wanders in the Williams. Anton Skirichenko, the second of the Red Bull. Of course, he's going to be slightly disheartened knowing that his teammate is out of this race. But holding on to P5, very decent haul of points. Nazar Segametov in P6. In the Mercedes. Very strong start for him. He's moved that up the order considerably after avoiding the carnage in Sector 2. Norbert Mitchon, the Alfa Romeo driver, he had a very strong start as well, inside the top 10 firmly after starting in P13 or 14. Callum Lloyd rejoining the race in P8 for Aston Martin, which I think is a really good result out of that chaos. And then Andrei Fomichev. Oh, bit of a moment there for Callum Lloyd, seizing all 4 corners. But Fomichev in the car behind. And we'll just go to the front of the order now, because I believe safety car is in and Zenkov gets back underway. We are back to racing conditions here at Imola. Nice strong start by both Ferraris. Here comes Richard Wanders in the Williams, though, side by side with Artemov, coming down into the braking zone at turn 1. Puffs of smoke coming from the Ferraris ahead, and actually they've seized tyres. Zenkov and Maslenikov switching places at the start here of the 7th lap. So, and Williams going through into 3rd place in the form of Wanders. So really strong position change for both 1st and 3rd. Haas now into 4th place, but still firmly attached to this pack. Anton Skirichenko in the Red Bull, slowly losing ground and soon to be under attack by Segametov in the Mercedes. Coming down into Minerali. All 4 cars still within DRS of one another at this moment in time. Of course, it won't be opened up straight away as they all come down into Sector 3. Gaps starting to widen, 0.7 seconds between our 2 leading Ferraris. Then it's down to 0.5 seconds between the Williams in third. 0.7 seconds and to the Haas. So the Williams really on a strong charge. Richard really pushing that car to its limits and this restart. All front running cars on soft compounds, as is the Haas in P4 as well. Here comes a move for position between Skirichenko and Segametov. The Red Bull defending on the inside, but runs onto the sausage curbs, losing some pace. Mercedes tries to go around the outside, but the door is closed. Norbert Mikon now sensing an opportunity, has a little peek down the inside, thinks better of it though, and all the Mercedes going off. Segametov having a big moment there on the exit of turns 5 and 6. Just got onto the gravel just ever so slightly. Lots of cars now starting to group up behind, looking for an opportunity, a window. Oh, it's a big moment there sideways coming into Sector 2. Piratella, just massive sideways moment in the Mercedes. Held it together quite nicely though, and kept all the positions as well. Looking back to the Alfa Romeo, currently sitting in P7. Cars behind, Callum Lloyd in the Aston Martin, then Nick Stefanenko for Williams, Formichev for the, I think it's the Alpine. Oh, no, sorry, this is the Haas. Oh, and also a bit of a touch from Elliott Simpson in the Aston Martin. He's currently sitting in P11. Oh, the Mercedes now going wide. No, that's actually Callum Lloyd. Callum Lloyd losing positions on the restart. Medium compound tyres obviously not heating up as quickly as he would like. And that has lost him a ton of ground, down into P12 now. It's back to the lead of the race though. This is Maslenikov, the 2 Ferraris. 0.3 seconds between these two. They've broken the DRS to the Williams in third, who is still in trouble as Artemov behind has closed down to 0.6 seconds. So looks like we're going to have 2 separate fights, but Ferrari firmly in control of this race at this stage. Popping back to this 3-way fight for P7. The Alfa Romeo leading the pack. Segametov is slightly ahead by 1 second. And we have Nick Stefanenko closing up really well in the middle sector through Minerali. The exit up the hill proving to be very beneficial and closing that gap. Of course, the Williams is on soft compound tyres, so he needs to get this pass done in order to stay attached to the Mercedes ahead. DRS will be in play for both cars, I believe, as they come down the back straight. Yes, they do. Across the start finishing line here. Will the Williams be able to close the gap, though? That's the question. Here comes the attack from Nick Stefanenko. Round the outside. Very strong, bold move, and he's got it done. Well done to Stefanenko. Massive move around the outside into turn 2. They don't see that every day. Through Tamburello. And he takes that position using those soft compound tyres. Much more grip available there for the Williams. And he knew exactly what he needed to do to place that car and took that position away. Very well done. His teammate just up the road in P4. Still losing ground to the Ferraris ahead, but still a strong pace, holding off Artemov as best he can. 0.7 seconds as they come down into the chicane. On board with Artemov now. Very large gap coming out of the final corner. I don't think that's going to be enough of a gap in order to make up that ground. He is closing the gap, but it's just too far ahead. The Williams really strong, and he goes and seizes that front left tyre. Made up some ground, but of course he just couldn't get it slowed down in time. And the gap now up to 0.8 seconds coming through Sector 1. Good battle going on for P9. Fomichev holding off Elliot Simpson in the Aston Martin. Of course, different tyre compounds being played out here. The Haas driver on the hard compound, Elliot Simpson's on the mediums. Puffs of smoke coming from the Haas, coming through Tosa, which is turn 7. Up the hill now. 3 cars leading up into sector 2. The Alfa Romeo leading the way. Oh, big moment there for Elliot Simpson. Oh, and here comes another car, Moses Reyes. The second time that an Aston Martin has lost it at the top of that particular corner, and the second time that the Alpine has arrived on scene and been caught out by it. So gets back underway. It seems to be that the Alpine is the one that's come off worst out of that situation. At least both cars are still moving. Not too sure if that will deploy the safety car. I don't think so. Back to the fights though. Plenty of them to be had, that's for sure. This one, Seda Metov holding off the Williams, this time in the hands of Nick Stefanenko. Sideways goes the Mercedes into the gravel. Nice easy overtake there for the Williams. And just in the background there, we see another battle starting to unfold. This is Fomichev in the Haas, holding off the Alfa Romeo. He's made it past, in fact. There's an overtake that's happened in between these two. Fomichev in the Haas now up into 8th place. Oh, we have another retiree, Alexander Mezhkov, added to the list. Very sad sight to see. So we have had our second retiree of this evening. Back to the battle for 3rd place. Artemov seems to be really strong coming into the first sector. The Williams, though, pretty much strong everywhere else. They are still also staying firmly attached to these Ferraris. In fact, the Williams has gained quite a bit of time on Maslenikov, who himself has dropped back from Zenkov in the lead of the race. So we've had another change in the lead of the two Ferraris. Zenkov back into pole position as of these qualifying results. Maslenikov following behind by 2.5 seconds. Now the Williams is 1.4 behind Maslenikov, coming up the top of the hill. Through for Variante Alta, which is the chicane here in Sector 3, and down the hill. So he has actually gained at least 0.6 or 7 seconds last time that we was viewing this particular fight. Artemov still in that DRS zone. He's holding firm at around the 0.8 second margin as the DRS wing opens for him. The Williams, though, no such luxury as of yet. He's got to make a bit more ground in order to open up that rear wing. And Artemov now 0.5 seconds behind. Of course, coming through the twisty stuff, that's when he starts to lose a bit of ground. Imola only having 1 DRS zone, as opposed to Bahrain, which has 3. So a lot more work to do, a lot more focusing to be done through the twisty stuff. And you can't simply rely on that overspeed to gain up that ground. Oh, big moment here between these two. I thought for a second there that Wanders was going to go wide into the barrier that we've seen so much already this race, but just managed to hold the car in shape. Artemov sensed an opportunity, nearly went for the inside, but saw that it was going to go sideways very quickly and decided to back out. Very wise manoeuvre. But that has now widened the gap to the Ferraris ahead. 3 seconds going down into the final corner of Rivasa. DRS once again open, this time much closer to the Williams, coming down into Sector 1. Still not close enough through Tamburello in order to make a move though. So we sense an opportunity starting to emerge for the Haas driver. Artemov definitely... Oh, he's gone off! On the exit of Villeneuve chicane, goes into the gravel. And that's cost him at least 3 seconds. All that work, he was certainly in a really strong position, getting closer and closer to the back end of the Williams. And all it takes here at Imola is one small mistake and it can ruin your day. Luckily, it didn't end in a collision into the barrier. So he's only lost a bit of pride and a few seconds to go with it. But certainly plenty of time to make up for that. We still have the first round of pit stops to be done. And also, we know that he is a very strong driver, especially through Sector 1. So we might see another battle for third here. Of course, a bit of relief for Richard in the Williams in third. I'm sure he's looking in his rear mirror thinking, thank God, I can focus on what's going on ahead of me now. Let's go back just slightly into P5. Skirichenko in the Red Bull car. And giving chase is the sister Williams car. Stefanenko finds himself in P6. Coming into turn 1. On board with Williams. Gap is 1.5 seconds. Of course, Skirichenko, his teammate, retiring early on. We saw that massive collision with his teammate. Fire coming out the engine bay as they crash at this very corner that we're seeing now. Not the start to the evening that they were hoping for. And that will be on the mind of Skirichenko, I'm sure, carrying the team for the rest of the race. And he's going to be wanting to take home a nice haul of points. Of course, being in P5, he can certainly do that. But the rest of the grid is not going to make that easy for him. Or just shy of that 1 second barrier as he comes across the start finishing line. Will the Williams actually be able to get that DRS? Yes, he does. So good on Nick Stefanenko there in the Williams in P6. Managed to just claw his way into the sub 1 second. The DRS was given to him. It must have been 0.9 seconds, something stupid like that. But it's enough to open that rear wing, and he's gained some ground as a result. We're still keeping our eyes on the battle for third place on the standings as well. That is sub 1 second itself. Stefanenko looking onto the inside, coming down now into Minerali. This could be an opportunity for him. He'll have to wait for a better opening, of course. This corner, not the best place to overtake at all. So, but he is now firmly attached. 0.2 seconds between these guys. Looks down the inside, coming into the chicane at Alta. Waiting for a better opportunity. Maybe potentially down into Rivasa. That heavy braking zone could be a very prime target indeed. They're side by side, coming through the left-hand kink. Not able to send it down the inside this time by. Of course, he will get DRS though. This is the prime opportunity. Coming into turns 2 and 3. Tamburello, this would be the perfect time to do it. DRS has been opened. The closing gap now becoming smaller. Overspeed coming in for the Williams. He goes for the inside line. That's where he wants to be for the braking zone. Clears the Red Bull in the process. Over to the right-hand, right-hand side for the optimal racing line there. So Williams now up into P5. Very strong afternoon for them so far. Let's go up the road to the battle for P3 because this is getting pretty tasty as well. Richard in the Williams holding off Igor Artemov in the Haas. Through Minerali. 0.3 seconds between them. On board with Artemov now. Lost a few tenths going through the chicane. Both on the soft compound tyre as well, so equally matched down to driver talent and setup. DRS open, lost a bit of ground there in the final two corners. Now DRS, you can just see how much time is gained from that small straight between the final corner and sector 1. Williams seems very strong in the middle part of this particular lap though here at Imola though. So it's going to be very tricky for the Haas to make up that ground. Of course he has to consider the dirty air coming off the back end of that car as well. It's all well and good staying close to your competitor, but it will start to affect your front end grip over the course of time. A bit of a moment there for Wanders, going slightly wide. You can tell just how much he's pushing that Williams. Let's have a look at some lap times for you as they come down now into Rivasa. Best lap time goes to Artemov in this particular fight, 1:16.7. Last lap was a 1:17.6 for the Haas driver. Personal best for Richards in the Williams is a 1:17.2 though, so big difference, or well, it is in the Formula 1 world at least. Big difference in between these two. Here comes the DRS though, this time in a much stronger position for the Haas driver, going down the inside. Puffs of smoke from the Williams, keeps that position at bay, and amazingly the Haas driver was able to back out just in the nick of time. This time though, another attack coming down the inside into Villeneuve corner, side by side. Amazing stuff here between the two of them, running onto the gravel, onto the tarmac. He goes and back into the race. So, bit of a moment there. That would have been spectacular if they were both able to pull that off. Racing room given by Wanders in the Williams. And really heating up before the first round of pit stops are due. This is time to push for Artemov. Of course, we're coming to the end of these tyres, being the softs that is, so they don't last that long, and we are 20 laps now into this race as we have a big problem for the Williams. Goes onto the gravel. That doesn't allow them to deploy all of the horsepower available, and the Haas sensing the opportunity. He's got the DRS, of course, coming down to turn 1. Nothing that Wanders could do to defend that position. And he's even still got a bit of pickup on those tyres. You saw the wiggle coming through that section of corners at Tamburello. Let's move back slightly down into P8 now. Fomichev in the sister Haas car against the Alfa Romeo. Norbert Mitchon in charge and 0.6 seconds behind as they come through the chicane in Sector 1. Nice on-board shot here of the Alfa Romeo. Through Minerali, no problems for either driver. Gap now up to 0.8 seconds, so the Alfa starting to struggle in the middle sector. Let's have a look at some data, see which car is the fastest at this moment in time. Of course, remember, medium compound tyres here for the... Oh, big moment. Oh dear, very sideways incident indeed coming down into Rivasa. Simpson goes on by in the Aston Martin, so a free position for him. He himself goes wide onto the gravel ever so slightly as well. As we begin at lap 22. So 0.7 seconds between these two cars. Both will have a slight degree of pickup on the particular set of compound tyres. Callum Lloyd going side by side with Dylan Tarbotum. Bit of a wheel tap between these two coming across the start finishing line. The McLaren clears the Aston Martin. He sweeps on back behind to get a slight slipstream coming down into turn 1. both on different compound tyres as well. The Aston Martin on the faster mediums, however Dylan on the hard compound, playing the long game in the McLaren, this time coming down into turns 5. Has a little peep, thinks better of it. It doesn't going to end well, so decides to wait for another opportunity. But yeah, Aston Martin's race so far this evening not going as they would hope. They're of course hoping at least to move up the order in this particular race, but it's in fact they've gone the opposite direction, unfortunately, down into P9 and 12 respectively. Oh, mistake there for Dylan. Toboten McLaren now going back down into P12. Really strong start to the race. He got up to into 9th following that big crash. Maslenikov now into P5. I believe that they've just served their first pit stop. Yes, they have. So the Ferraris now deploying the first part of their strategy for this evening. Zenkov going into the final 2 corners. Are we going to see him enter pit lane for the first time too? Yes, we are. So here we come. The pit stop strategy starting to unfold. Coming to a halt. Going on to the medium compounds here. In the meantime, Artemov goes on by. New leader for the race. The first time the Haas driver has been in the front so far, with 40 laps remaining. Now the Mercedes coming in as well from P6. Their first pit stop, going from softs onto the mediums as well. So pretty much a similar strategy to everyone else so far. Nobody going for the hard compounds other than the ones that started on them, of course. It'll be interesting to see how deep the McLaren can go into this particular stint. I believe he's one of the only few cars that have gone on to that particular set. So it'll be interesting to see how long they can make those last. We're expecting him to come in later on in the race, of course. Now we're waiting for Artemov to come into the pit lane. He's really making this soft compound last, considering he was in the slipstream of the Williams for such a considerable amount of time. He's actually going quite deep into this particular stint. 25 laps completed, the gap up to 13 seconds. And Nick Stefanenko in the Williams being the second car in this order, but he's on the medium compound, so we're expecting him to go further into the stint. Or no, he's actually changed onto softs. So both these cars going quite deep into this particular stint, it seems. So a bit of change of pace. The Red Bull is in third in the hands of Skirichenko. He's a further 4 seconds adrift from second place. Battle going on between these two. Elliott Simpson and Fomichev in the sister Haas car. So coming down into sector 1 for P6. So we've had a few cars serve their first round of stops. And here comes the first of the Ferraris. Senkov in the number 5, catching up to the Red Bull for third place. Skirichenko going deeper on these medium compounds. DRS is open this time by coming down into turn 1. So that Ferrari really has some strong pace here. Of course, their home circuit, San Marino, is considered to be Ferrari's home circuit. So it looks like they're on track to bring home some very strong point hauls for the constructors and for their personal drivers' championships too. In the meantime, though, Igor Artemov actually has the fastest lap of the race in the Haas. So, of course, he will get a 1 point bonus for holding that, if it's still the case by the time we get to the checkered flag. 1:16.7 being the time to beat. Skirichenko now coming under pressure from Zenkov. Maslenikov in the second of the Ferraris, still closing in behind, 2 seconds adrift. Oh, bit of a twitch there from Zenkov. Tries to get the power down as they come out of Rivasa. Callum Lloyd in the Aston Martin in pit lane. Oh, Dylan Tarbotton in the McLaren has DNF'd. So another retiree. And a big move there from Zenkov down into turn 1, utilising that overspeed from the DRS system and into 3rd place. Nice classic move. Oh, bit of gravel touching from Skirichenko. Of course, his objective so far at this point in the race is to hold up the Ferraris as much as possible. He is yet to come into the pits for his first stop. Artemov, in fact, still going strong in the lead of this race in the Haas. Stefanenko also out with him. They're maintaining that pace. Last lap times were 1:17.9s. The Ferraris, on the other hand, currently setting 1:18.2s. So for now, at least, the cars in first and second are extending that gap on the soft compound. So a bit more life left in them. On board with Maslenikov, the second of the Ferraris, DRS enabled, 0.5 seconds to make up on the entry to turns 2. Looking down the inside, going into Tamburello, too wide, he makes the move done, excellent, exactly, rinse and repeat of what his teammate did just at last lap, and that's both Ferraris through. Last lap times for these guys as they were passing the traffic with 1:17.5s. So that pace pretty much on those medium compound tyres as well, matching the pace of the front running cars. So I would be tempted, if anything, to come in very, very soon to change those tyres, because we're getting to the point now where the Ferraris... Oh, big moment there for Skirichenko. The Red Bull driver going onto the gravel does its job and slows him down and prevents him from going into the barrier. Just take it easy, getting back up to speed though. Going to have a lot of pickup on those worn tyres. But yeah, I would expect at least Artemov and Stefanenko to come in very shortly. A change for... Oh, a front wing missing. A front wing missing for Artemov. That is a huge collision for the Haas driver. We've missed an incident at some point somewhere. I was surprised to see the Williams because the gap was, of course, 14 or so seconds the last time that we saw it. So the Haas driver running into problems here. Stefanenko also being caught really quickly now. Zenkov in the Ferrari, 2 seconds behind. You can just see him in the rear view of the camera shot, coming through Sector 1. He's not going to be in the lead of this race for very long at all. He's still on that first set of compound tyres, or soft compound tyres. DRS already enabled. The pace of this Ferrari extremely strong, coming down into the beginning of lap 30. So we're approaching the halfway point of this evening's race. And the Ferrari's already in a really strong point now, 0.5 seconds as they enter the next lap. Through Villeneuve. And approaching Toza, turn 7. Oh, looks like the teammate Had a bit of a moment going onto the gravel there. Maslenikov still holding it together though. Through Piratella. And we've got some traffic coming into play as we enter Minerali. The Alpine, I believe that is Lopez Garcia. He's not had the best of evening so far. Currently sitting in P13, running into 2 incidents, no less. I believe none were a fault of his own, just got caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Could we see a change for the lead here? Zenkov in the Ferrari, very close behind, waiting for the exit of the final corner to deploy that DRS. Stefanenko opting to stay out on track as well, so change for the lead. Here comes the overspeed from the DRS system. Zenkov being forced onto the outside line. The Williams being cleared before entering the braking zone, and slots in behind for that slipstream. We've got the teammate in close proximity. Maslenikov in the Ferrari in the number 4 car, now within 1.2 seconds as they come up the hill. Both the Ferraris on medium compound tyres. Stefanenko, of course, on the softs. But, of course, they are completely destroyed at this stage of the race. Showing in the lap times as well. Both of the Ferraris, in fact, they're setting personal best laps now. 1:16.622. Now the time to beat. A little peek down the inside into Rivasa. Thinks better of it. And Stefanenko still staying out. Incredible stuff. The problem being, though, that his last lap time was a 1:18.2. That's a deficit of at least a second. DRS open. Here comes Maslenikov up into second place. Same situation, cleared before the braking zone as we enter Tamburello. And that's a 1-2 once again for Ferrari here at the San Marino Grand Prix. Now Igor Artemov rejoins the race behind his teammate in P6 at the moment. So we have these two coming closer and closer together. Close behind is one of the Mercedes, although I'm not too sure if that is for position or if that is a lap down. Now this will be interesting to see how they manage this. Of course, Artemov, the faster of the two guys in the team, will be looking to go back up the order. Maybe catch Simpson, who is in P5 at the moment, and also Skirichenko in the Red Bull, who finds himself in 4th. No doubt waiting for the DRS to open up. Okay, entering the start-finish straight. Both cars very stable. That rear wing opens up. And here comes the overtake for P6. Both sister cars side by side coming down into turn 1. Fomichev on the inside line. Doesn't look to be conceding, although they are on a different strategy, because you can see the different tyre compounds being played at this stage of the race. Fomichev in the end concedes, and Artemov moves on through into 5th place. Another battle underway. Just as that one comes to a close, another begins. The Alfa Romeo. Norbert Michon representing the team here this evening. Richard Wanders looking down the inside. Big puff of smoke coming from the Alfa as it seizes going into Tosa. Coming up the hill, the Williams looking slightly down onto the inside. Just seeing what's available in terms of real estate. And looking for that opportunity to present itself. Minerali. Very aggressive attacking of the curbs there from Michon. Wanders again, once again, looking down the inside. Can I make the move just as of yet? Probably not. Rivasa coming up in a short moment's time. Could he make the move down there? He's going to wait for the run down the start-finish straight. He will have the advantage of DRS, of course. On board with the Williams. DRS will have opened now. You can see the speed starting to take effect. Going for the inside line. Not much of defence from Mitchon. Not much really that he can do for that matter. Williams going down into the inside line. Takes P7 away. Nothing that the Alpha could do. The speed was just too much and gives the position away. Things are starting to settle down now. So the Williams already up to 1.5 seconds over Mitchon. Has he got a problem perhaps? Has the Alfa Romeo got some sort of issue? Because that gap has increased significantly in such a short space of time. In fact, the next car down the order is Simpson. He's got a lot of work to do though. He's at least 50 seconds adrift. And now coming into the braking zone. Sorry, he's actually right behind. So we could see another battle taking place here. Simpson on the attack. Coming down into Sector 3. Rivasa, the next target, of course. The corner coming up next. These two left-handers before we get back onto the start-finish straight. The DRS once again coming into play. Aston Martin desperately need to move up. Of course, they've had a really rough start to this race. Both cars in P9 and 10. They started in 6th and 7th, so they'll be hoping to at least match that as best they can. Here he comes down the inside line. The Alfa Romeo on the right-hand side. The position goes over to Simpson, who's on the soft compound tyres after starting on the mediums. And moving up slightly. Wonder where his teammate is. Callum Lloyd is the next in line to move up into position. And yeah, large gap between Callum Lloyd. He did have a big spin, unfortunately, as he comes through Minerali. So he's pretty much just on the cups of being a lap down off the car next in line to be overtaken. So a lot of work to do as we have already just gone past the halfway point of this race. Lap 36 of 63. And your leaders at this moment in time are the two Ferraris, Zenkov and Maslenikov. Really starting to show some true dominance here at the San Marino Grand Prix. And making up for their mistakes at Bahrain a week ago. So how will that affect the standings, you ask? Well, I'm glad you brought that to my attention. So let's have a quick look at where they currently sit. So Maslenikov in P5 with 11 points at this moment in time. So depending on where everyone else finishes, of course, Nick Stefanenko is the car ahead in P4. He's currently sitting in P4 as we speak in the Williams. So he's going to take home a further 12 points to round out at 24 if things remain as they are. Of course, the biggest change will be for Zenkov. He has no points, unfortunately, after suffering a bit of a mistake at Bahrain. He was leading the race for a small portion of time before that happened. So certainly had some strong pace. It was just the consistency that let him down. But of course he will move way up the order into the top 5 positions if he comes home victorious here this evening. I'm sure a task that he would very much like to see through. Back over to the Williams. Nick Stefanenko certainly in P4 as just mentioned. Igor Artemov in the Haas after losing his front wing at an earlier point of this race is firmly behind, 1.5 seconds to be exact before he sees the back end of the Williams. Last lap times are both 1:16.8 on their current set, both on mediums. As they come through Piratella and into Aqua Minerali. Or he's actually just broken into the sub 1 second. So Stefanenko may be in a bit of bother in a short moment's time. See what he can do to break that slipstream coming into the final 2 corners. Gap up to 1.1 second. Although Artemov very strong through here. He's brought it back down to 1.02. And he does have the DRS. So there you go. So he's opened up that rear wing. Obviously there must have been a small window where he was sub 1 second just there. And closing down, so he's now 0.8 seconds behind. The 2 Ferraris also sub 1 second with one another, though I don't suspect much fighting will be going on between those two. The gap closing down ever so slightly. A slight, very minor puff of smoke coming from the Haas on that front left corner as they entered Sector 2. We've seen that already plentiful this race. Very tricky corner to master. A lot of confidence required going into Minerali. 0.5 seconds. So Artemov really on the attack now. The Haas closing down with every single apex that's met. DRS is open. Will it be enough to close down on the entry to Tamburello? On the attack around the outside, the Williams defends on the inside, offers racing room, but it's not enough to open the door there for the Haas driver. Slips on back into the slipstream. Coming through the chicane. Slight little peep down the inside coming into Toza. Not close enough to make it work though. Waits for another opportunity. On board now with the Haas. And a penalty, first of this evening, going to one of the Alpine drivers, I believe, Moses Reyes, currently in P12 at the moment. Artemov coming across the start finishing line once again. DRS open, same situation as we had before. This time, though, not close enough to make a move. Oh, and a big mistake there coming out of the Villeneuve chicane. Goes onto the gravel just ever so slightly. That's all it took, though, to widen that gap. He's now sub 1 second, or sorry, past 1 second. And this could be an opportunity for Stefanenko and the Williams to get away. Another battle firmly underway, though, is in P7. This is Simpson in the Aston Martin applying pressure to Wanders. He's had a very strong start to this race. He qualified in 4th place. It seems to be slowly coming away from him. He wanted to score some really nice points, of course, when we spoke to him earlier on. He's still in a strong position at the moment. He's behind Fomichev, so in a 3-car fight for 6th place at this moment in time. Skirichenko in the Red Bull comes into pit lane from 3rd, so that allows the Williams of Stefanenko to go up into 3rd onto the final podium slot. Artemov now 1.2 seconds behind, so he won't be getting that DRS for the time being. Different story for this battle though, both cars getting DRS in this 3-car train. Right onto the back end of the Haas for Fomichev. Looking down the inside into the Villeneuve chicane. Very bold move, side by side. Looking for the switch back here in the Williams. Looks like he set him up really nicely on the entry to Toza. Round the outside he goes. He's got the grip to do it. Onto the acceleration, and he's made the move. Nick Stefanenko, Wanders making a really bold overtake round the outside. You do not see that very often. That's the second time we've seen a very bold move round the outside here this evening. Great stuff from the Williams driver. Not over yet though, because here is Elliot Simpson. He's replaced that position and is still applying pressure to Fomichev. The Haas driver could be about to lose 2 positions in one single lap. Down into Rivazza. Needs to make sure he perfects the exit here. That will be key to opening up that DRS and taking this position away. Does not want to allow the Williams to accelerate into the distance, which he already is doing so, of course. He's up to 1.1 seconds already ahead of these two. Slight touch of the grass from Fomichev. Not enough ground made by Simpson in order to pose a threat at this stage. Villeneuve chicane once again. Slightly better exit from Simpson. The gap has come down. 0.2 seconds between the two. Looking down the inside. Gets a better exit again. The Aston Martin could be about to move up into P6. We've got a fight in the background as well. As it comes onto camper. That's Stefanenko and Artemov about to lap these guys in a short moment's time. Maslenikov in the pits as well. Our leading Ferrari. Zenkov also in second place. He has just served his own pit stop himself. Small puff of smoke from Simpson's Aston Martin coming into the chicane. Got to be very careful. It's a close fight between these two. Any single mistake could cause a contact. On board with the Aston Martin. DRS opens up, although the Haas seems to have got a nice getaway from the Aston Martin though. Very strong pull away on the final corner. That's not going to allow him enough room to overtake. Oh, he's going for it anyway. Elliot Simpson round the outside into turn 1. What a bold move. Again, this is happening all over the place this evening. Really strong stuff from the Aston Martin driver moving up into P6. So Fomichev on those hard compound tyres, pretty much defenceless at this stage. It thought for a second he was going to have enough of a gap to the Aston Martin to hold on to that, but yeah, just really bold, aggressive dive from Simpson. He knew exactly how much grip it was available, really pushed that braking zone to its limits, and that was enough to make the move. Racing room given by both drivers, just really good driving from both teams. Vladislav Zenkov in the Ferrari, leading the way still, ahead of his teammate. They're still on a charge. Best lap 1:15.6. So as we enter the final stages, that fuel load starts to get lighter, and they're on the soft compounds. So we're starting to see some qualifying pace now. In the meantime, we've had a change of position between Igor Artemov and Nick Stefanenko. We're currently viewing his teammate Richard in the Williams, because Elliot Simpson is just 1.5 seconds behind and closing. So we'll keep an eye on this battle as it unfolds. But yeah, Igor Artemov is in third place for Haas. Nick Stefanenko in the Williams now in P4. So it's a good work from here by both the Williams drivers. They, of course, qualified in P4 and P10 for Nick. So both doing extremely well, both in the top 5. That's a good haul of points for the Williams team overall. And of course, we're now executing the second part of the strategy. Some of the teams already entering pit lane, especially the Ferraris here this evening. And they'll be looking to go to the end of the race now. Gap between these two guys though, 1.6. Let's have a look at these lap times coming across the start finishing line. 1:16.8 for the Williams, and then 1:16.7 for the Aston Martin. So Simpson slowly but surely reeling in that fifth place position, my apologies, and we could see a fight in a few laps time. 20 laps remaining here at San Marino. Not long left now to execute those final strategic moves. Let's go on board with Elliott Simpson coming out of Aqua Minerale. And a penalty for Callum Lloyd as well coming through. So that's the Aston Martin driver. So not a good evening for him. Of course, he's had that spin earlier on. No DRS presenting itself for Simpson just as of yet. He's got to do a bit more work before that comes to him. And the gap now down to 1.1 seconds as we exit Tamburello. Really smooth driving here from Simpson. Really nailing the apex at Tosa. That's allowed him to gain a few more tenths, 0.7 seconds as we enter Piratella. Turn 9, back down the hill once again. Aqua Minerale, a lot of confidence and using a lot of the curb. And that's allowed him to gain just a bit more to the car ahead. Down the hill he goes, into the braking zone, to the final corner. Needs to perfect the exit out of Rivazza onto the start finishing straight. He will get DRS this time by. The gap 0.7 seconds coming across the start finishing line. And this is where things will start to heat up now. Heavy braking into turn 2. Needs to make sure he maintains the gap now. 0.7 seconds still. So lost a bit of ground through those section of corners. Was down to 0.5. Using all the curbing available out of Villeneuve chicane. And now firmly within the slipstream. So 0.4 seconds, which is nothing here in Formula 1, of course. That once that DRS will open, if he can maintain this gap, he will pose a significant threat on the next start-finish line. Once again on board with Simpson. One of the cars going into pit lane. That's one of the Alpines. That was Lopez Garcia, who's currently running in 11th place. Oh, Sega Mentov has retired, which is a new one for us. We've missed that at some stage of the race. Apologies. So only 11 cars still running out of 16 that started. And no real momentum gained there from Simpson that time by down the start finishing straight. Two Ferraris are close together at the lead of the race, so Maslenikov leading Zenkov, who was on pole position before the start. Coming down into the final corner once more, Rivazza. We've seen this very fast lap times here at Imola, and still the fastest lap being 1:14.7, so that fastest lap still getting lower and lower. So no doubt they'll take the pole position, or first place, and the fastest lap extra 0.2. Zenkov opening the DRS. A bit of fighting going on between these two Ferraris. Looking for the switchback here on the exit of... Oh, Tamburello. Almost a sideswipe there from Zenkov. Looks to be wanting to take the lead of this race over his teammate. But be very careful not to collide with one another. Of course, they worked so hard to make sure that they beat all the rest of the teams. They've got 16 seconds advantage over Artemov in the Haas in third place. And it seems to be that they feel fairly comfortable with one another to go side by side through Piratella. The front wheel was on the inside line there from Zenkov. This is where the engineers get very twitchy as well. Start biting their fingernails as the two teammates go to war here at the round 2 of the championship. Of course, being teammates, you want to make sure that you both come home in first and second place. But oh, big moment! Zenkov goes completely sideways on the exit of Rivaza. That is a front wing missing, goes into the barrier at full speed. Just too much right foot on the exit there. Onto the curbing he goes, and nothing he could do. As soon as those rear wheels span up, he was a passenger. Artemov now licking his lips as he goes into second place. That is a freebie given to them. They could have come home first and second. They had the pace, they had the advantage, but they wanted to fight, and that is the consequence of that. 50 laps completed, only 13 to go, and that is a lot of repairs there. New front wing going on for Zenkov, but already Nick Stefanenko, Richard Wanders and Elliot Simpson all go through, and he finds himself now in a fight for even to get into the top 5 now. So Williams now looking at a podium position. Nick Stefanenko finds himself in a very peculiar situation. Richard Wanders is now back in position from where he qualified. So finds himself still under pressure from Elliot Simpson. 0.9 seconds before you see the Aston Martin's front wing. And this could be a fight that goes down to the checkered flag. We'll have to wait and see. Slightly slow through the chicane there for the Williams. Through the final corner. DRS will be available for Simpson. Rear wing opens up. That gap seems a bit too big for my liking. Don't believe it's going to be this time by. No, that is the case. As we enter and exit Tamburello. Oh, bit of a mistake there from Wanders. Just holds it together through the Villeneuve chicane. Bit of puff of smoke. Elliot Simpson definitely the stronger of the two at this stage of the race. 0.3 seconds faster last time over the start finishing line. Aqua Minerale. Oh, a bit too much curb for that particular chicane. I lost a bit of time, down to 0.4 seconds still though. It's a strong position to be in. If he can maintain that through the final 2 corners, it could be this time by going through the start finish line. DRS will open now. Nice exit from the Williams though, up to 0.6 seconds. Only now is it coming back down. They've already crossed the start finishing line. Don't believe he's going to pose a threat this time by, and that seems to be Wanders' strength in this race. He's really good at setting that Williams up for the final run down to the finish line, and that's just keeping Simpson at bay. He manages to make a few attempts up in the twisty stuff, but it's when it counts on that main straight that the Williams seems to make that extra tenth or two. Oh, might be a bit of a problem though. 0.3 seconds. This is the closest that Simpson has been for quite some time. Coming into Sector 2 at the top of the hill, down into Aqua Minerale once more. Really aggressively attacking the curbs here. Trying to extract full potential from the Aston Martin. Through the chicane, 0.2 seconds. That gap is maintained, so this time in a much stronger position, coming down into Rivaza. Williams gets slight advantage, 0.3 seconds. This could be the opportunity Simpson's been waiting for. A lot closer this time by at least 3 attempts. Here comes the attack down on the inside line. The Williams opts for the outside. Down on the inside he goes. The flap closes, the brakes are applied, and Simpson goes through. That's P4. But would there be any form of counter-attack here from Warnders, though, coming up towards the Villeneuve chicane? Oh, and both go wide, really pushing these Formula 1 cars to their utmost limits. Impressive stuff, but yeah, Simpson really managed to maintain that gap. That's exactly what he needed to do, and come the DRS zone, he could attack with full confidence that Aston Martin having the overspeed it needed. This time, though, it will be the Williams in the advantage seat. Of course, he will have the DRS, although, having said that, he is on the medium compound tyre. So Simpson will have the advantage of being on the soft compound, a lot more grip available there. But the question is, how old are these soft compound tyres? We've got 10 laps remaining here at the San Marino Grand Prix. He's spent a lot of that tyre life attacking the Williams for 4th place. Is it going to be enough to get to the checkered flag without them falling off the wall? Now the DRS will be available for the Williams. You can see the gap closing down, 0.5 seconds. Simpson defends on the inside line into Tamburello. Is enough to keep the Williams at bay. This time by a small little twitch there from Warnders as he struggles to get the Williams back in line. Seems to carry a lot more speed into the Villeneuve chicane as well, is Warnders. And that seems to be costing him a 10th or 2 as the Aston Martin can accelerate a lot sooner. Oh, and it's all starting to unwind here for Warnders. We've seen that already. Oh, bit of a lag moment there as well. So that's increased the gap quite significantly. It looks like he may be having a connection issue there. The server has pushed him back ever so slightly, up to 3 seconds no less. So that is that's a horrible way to see that battle come to an end, to be honest, with the closing stages of this race. But here we are. So Mazlanikov now leading the race. In fact, we'll go back to Zenkov, who finds himself in P6. He has now got a job to do. We know that he's very quick around here. Both Ferraris very dominant at this particular Grand Prix, and Warnders is off. Warnders in a big way. In fact, that's exactly what happened to Zenkov in the Ferrari just a few laps ago. And that is a lot of damage done to the Williams car. That is a horrible way to end his particular race. Coming into the pit lane for some urgent repairs. Luckily happened where it did. Not a long journey to get the mechanics to work on that particular machine. But Fomichev in the Haas coming down into Rivasa. He will take that free place, that free position. Oh, he himself nearly goes into the barrier. A lot of cars being caught out in the later stages of this race. Of course, worn tyres. Not a lot of grip available. And you are increasing the drive going to the back wheels, of course, coming out of that slow corner. Can pose a bit of a problem, but he will move up into P6. And Warnders now finds himself in P7. Skirichenko for the Red Bull is the next car in line for position. He's going to come across the start finish, going wide onto the grass himself. And he will go up by 1-2. So Warnders now into P8. Losing this ground. This is probably the worst time in this race that you would want to have an incident of any sort, because this is when it counts, of course, when the points are on the table. And yeah, just of course, these worn tyres. We've been racing a long time of here. You're going to be fatigued. It's a very high concentration circuit, very demanding on all of the senses. You're pretty much constantly under attack. The only reprieve is that short start-finish straight. And of course, these worn tyres, you just got to be so gentle when getting back up to speed across the start-finishing line. Of course, easier said than done when you're fighting for position. He wanted to stay on the back end of Simpson in the Aston Martin, but of course, different compound. It was pretty much a game of holding back or don't race at all. And as soon as Simpson got by, those soft compounds are just going to be in a better state for racing than those mediums. We're just following the leader around at the moment, Mazlanikov for the Ferrari. Of course, he would have seen what happened to his teammate Zenkov. Although he's still sitting in P5, they have pretty much thrown away the opportunity to come home with the team's first 1-2. But Maslenikov now really needs to make sure that he brings home the first place position. Artemov in the Haas coming in P2, 23 seconds adrift. Of course, he had the incident earlier on in the race where he lost his front wing. That's where that gap has come into play. The Red Bull behind, not for position either, so that is Skirichenko in the 97. That's a lap down in 7th place there. And trying to find some battles taking place for you. Unfortunately, not many after that small incident from... Oh, actually, we might have one here between these two. Yeah, this is Richard Wanders in the Williams. So he's come back out onto the racing track. 57 laps completed out of 63, 5 to go. And he finds himself behind Callum Lloyd in the Aston Martin. Oh, one car going very wide on the entry to Villeneuve chicane, I believe. So Callum Lloyd started in P7 or P6 alongside his teammate, moving down the order ever so slightly, which is not what they wanted to achieve, but now finds himself under pressure in the closing stages of this race. On board with the Williams then. Down into Rivasa. DRS open, very aggressive defence from Callum Lloyd as they come across the start finishing line. Of course, the Williams will have the extra speed and clears the Aston Martin before we get to the braking zone here. Suspect that also that the Williams will have taken some new tyres to get to the end of the race after going in for those repairs. Of course, they can change the tyres at the same time they're changing the front wing, as we now have the announcement that 5 laps remaining there, of course. A nice easy overtake for the Williams driver up into 8th place now. Nothing really Callum Lloyd can do on the same compound, but of course an older set of tyres there. Now, one thing that Richard could do is maybe go for the fastest lap of the race. It's a 1:14.7 set by Maslenikov, our leader of the race in the Ferrari. So it's a tall order. His personal best 1:16.3, but with that low fuel load and those new set of tyres, it could be possible. Now the battle's starting to come into play now. Simpson holding off Zenkov in the Ferrari. Very fast Ferrari driver here, at home certainly at Imola. They seem very strong here this evening, looking to make up as much of this lost ground as possible. Could have a three-way battle starting to emerge. So if the Ferrari can get past the Aston Martin, he may be able to apply some pressure to Stefanenko in the Williams, who finds himself in 3rd. That is a further 9 seconds up the road himself. So it's a tall order, but if the Ferrari has the pace, which we know it does, then it could be achievable here. Last laps for you as they come through then. For the Ferrari in question, 1:14.9. Certainly his personal best, so he is pushing that Ferrari as much as he can. Only 0.2 seconds off the fastest lap of this race. Elliott Simpson himself on a 1:15.9, so he's an entire second slower in the closing stages of this race. Nick Stefanenko in the Williams is on 1:16.7. So all three of these cars, the further up the order they are, the slower they are getting. Of course, different strategies in play here. And we are going to see a three-way fight for the 3rd place position, ladies and gents. This is going to be a really strong way to finish this particular race in the championship. Keeping our eyes on this battle though for P4. Zenkov closing that gap, sub 1 second now, 0.5 to be exact, as they come through turn 7. Oh, we've actually had a disqualification as well with, I've just noticed that at the bottom of my screen, Moses Reyes in the Alpine getting a DQ for some reason. We saw that he had a penalty earlier on in this race, but clearly hasn't served it, and the stewards found it necessary to bring him in. All cards on the table now for Zenkov, looking to get at least a podium position after that mistake earlier on. Or puffs of smoke as they come out of Rivasa. That's not how you want to set yourself up for the run down into turn 1. Here comes that overspeed though. The slipstream is available for him. The DRS is open and he clears the Aston Martin Classic overtake. We've seen that all evening. And now up into 4th place. Simpson will be trying his best to stay attached to the back end of that Ferrari. Try to maintain that slipstream as best as he can, because up the road by just 1 second is the Williams of Nick Stefanenko in 3rd place. This could be a really strong finish here for both these cars behind. They both are quicker than the Williams, but will they be able to hold it together? He's on the medium compound tyre, so both cars, of course, on the softs. They have the advantage in the closing stages, but will it be enough? Just 2 laps remaining before we get to the checkered flag, ladies and gents. Through Variante Alta, the chicane in sector 3. Into Rivasa. Williams really needs to focus now. Stefanenko will no doubt be feeling some form of pressure start to build. And we have DRS for Zenkov and the Ferrari. The flap opens as it does for the Aston Martin behind. Both cars closing down. The Ferrari, though, really aggressive. Nice setup on that car this evening. Really has a strong performance. Nearly loses it going into Tamburello. And now finds himself in the jaws of the Aston Martin. Simpson sniffing an opportunity here. Has to do all of that work again. They are still sub 1 second to Stefanenko with just 2 laps remaining, including the one that we are on now. Oh, the Richard Wanders has DNF'd as well. So there was Sister Williams car. So it's all on Stefanenko now to bring home some points for the Williams team. Oh, this is again extremely close now. The final few moments of the San Marino Grand Prix. It's all going to come down onto the final lap as Mas Melikov comes across the start-finish line for the final time. Skirichenko sets the fastest lap of the race in the Red Bull with a 1:14.7 here. The flap opens, here comes the DRS. The Williams under attack. Diff goes on the inside for the defensive line. The Ferrari sneaks on through into Tamburello, gets the position. Into 3rd place goes Zenkov and the Ferrari, but here comes Elliott Simpson in the Aston Martin. The Williams defenceless to hold on to that 3rd place against the Ferrari. I'm losing my words as we come into the closing lap here. Oh, a nice opportunity here for Elliott Simpson. They are too wide. He might be able to send it up the inside into Piratella. Is he going to be able to do it? He's got the slight overlap available. Backs out of it as the door is closed by the Williams, holding on to 4th place with everything that he has. Very strong stuff here. And here comes Maslenikov. He comes across the start-finishing line for Ferrari. Another victory for them. Their first of the season. And we've just missed the overtake. Oh, and a big moment there for Elliott Simpson. They've made contact going into the chicane up in sector 3. That's at Variante Alta. Tries to get back underway. Can't do so. Must have gone into the braking zone at turns 14. Just oversped just ever so slightly, but contact made between those two. Nick Stefanenko, in the meantime, comes across the start-finishing line in position and comes home in 4th. So a very dramatic end to that particular race. Igor Artemov in the Haas, coming home in 2nd place after that dramatic loss of that front wing. And Zenkov, drive of his life, I think has to be said, as he comes home in 3rd place. All the way down from P7 after his loss of his front wing as well. So what a race, ladies and gents. A few final cars coming across the start-finishing line in the form of Pablo Garcia. He will come home in the last position for points, P9. And also Alfa Romeo. He a reserve driver in play for this evening. His first race of the season, stepping in for the guys and coming home in P10, that last available point on the table. So there we go. You could not have made that up near the end of that race, ladies and gents. What a way to conclude this evening's racing. And let's bring up the official results for you. as that was definitely one of the one of the most dramatic ends of the season so far. Plenty of more of that to come though. So here are the results for you. Albert Mazlenikov for the Ferrari team. Really strong afternoon or evening for him. Followed by Igor Artemov. Could have been a different story if Zenkov hadn't have spun in the final corner on the exit of Rivaza. But those worn tyres just catching out some of the best here this evening. In third place is Zenkov himself in the Ferrari. What a drive to finish off and come home in that position. Followed by the Williams of Stefanenko. Not too sure what happened between him and Simpson as they entered turns 14, but it was in a big way as they tried to fight over that last remaining position. Elliot Simpson himself comes home in P5. We'll have to wait for the official results after that incident is reviewed to see if they move up or down the order respectively. And then Andrei Fomichev in the second of the Haas cars coming home in P6. A nice haul of points for the team this evening. Skivichenko holding the 7th place and also the fastest lap, which gives him the bonus point for this evening. And also Callum Lloyd in the second of the Aston Martins coming home in P8. Pablo Garcia in the first of the Alpines, the only one to finish the race for the team here at San Marino Grand Prix in P9. And unfortunately everyone else retired from this race. You have Richard Wanders, really strong race from him, but unfortunately retiring near the end of the race. Obviously a incident on worn tyres. Nazar Sega Mentov in P12, also retiring, as is the McLaren from Dylan Tarboton. Alexander Meshkov in the AlphaTauri, and Christopher Tarboton. Big incident for him, unfortunately, at the start. You know, flames everywhere coming out of that particular Red Bull. Moses Reyes in the second of the Alpines, also being disqualified for some reason. Not too sure why that was. But those are the official results for you, ladies and gents. I mean, wow. That is one way to finish the second round of this season. The San Marino Grand Prix, very tricky indeed. We were saying at the start, straight from qualifying, that this was going to be one to remember. Certainly, Imola has always been a controversial circuit. Some people love it, others hate it, and for good reason, as we've seen here this evening. The Ferraris, though, certainly at home at their Italian circuit. I think they'll be happy with that result today. But that concludes the action for this evening. If you have liked the stream, then please don't forget to give us a thumbs up before you leave, and don't forget to subscribe for more live streams. If you are interested in us, you can find the links all down in the description. And of course, for the league itself, the ASRC Formula 1 Championship, if you want to get in on the action, or if you want to see what the racing club is all about, then you can find the links to their Discord and all the championship details in the description below as well. From us here, though, it's all that we've got time for, unfortunately. So we will see you for the next one in a week's time. Hopefully we'll be asked to cover it, as the action here has been spectacular as always. But for us here at Chequered Simsports, take care, good night, and goodbye.